Welcome to this webinar at the launch of Think Factory Security, Peace and Public Policy Initiatives. In brief, SAPI. SAPI is newly set up think tank launched in October 2021 at the hands of Shri Shekhar Dutt, former governor and former defense secretary. Dr. Sivathanu Pillai, distinguished scientist of DRDO and founder, CEO and managing director of BrahMos Aerospace Private Limited, and Shri Arvind Gupta, director of Vivekananda International Foundation, who had been former Deputy NSA and DG IDSA too. It is the endeavor of SAPI to be a platform to create fresh grounds for cross pollination of ideas and deliver value to society in the field of security, peace, and public policy. This is the last part of 5-part series of inaugural session of SAPI. In this concluding part, there are questions and answers on very important and critical issues with answers from doyens in the fields of security and strategic affairs.
We will now be moving to the question answer session. We'll take a few limited questions. We have received this question from Colonel Kevin D'Souza, and this is for Dr. Pillai and Arvind Gupta sir. The question is, would you think that the national interest and the money available in India are important guiding factors? If so, can you define the national interest in your view? And would you think a cost-benefit analysis is unnecessary?
So we are talking about self-reliance, right? We're talking about self-reliance.
Yes.
Just now,
yes.
Mr. Shekhar Datta, he has outlined why India in the 21st century has to come out and then make things there. No, our capability he talked about. So looking at India's potential for developing new things, new products, and doing everything inside, it is definitely possible because the people are there. We have largest 750 million young people we have, and we have industries have grown. If there is a will, there is a way. Don't think about money and all. Money and all will come. If there is a will, definitely we will be able to make. What is needed is a will. Suppose there's a decision by the government. Earlier days, wars were taken by using their own weapon only. They have not borrowed weapon from outside. Similarly, if we decide that all defense equipment will be produced only in India from tomorrow onwards, suppose the government takes a decision, India is capable of doing it. Anything we can do. Why to buy the combat aircraft from other countries? We can make it, but you have to take a decision. So why in Agni type of strategic systems we don't buy from outside? So everybody appreciates the development. Critical systems, yes, but when it is an item which can be procured from outside, why this dilemma? We have to take a decision. Ships now we are making. Things have improved from earlier purchase to now. Our own ships are coming now. Similarly, tanks, our own tanks should come, not only the Arjun tank, many tanks should come. Our ordnance factory should produce. That is the question Mr. Pradeep Gupta asked. Technology transfer, what did you learn to make it? You take technology to reproduce what they are doing. Technology improvement we have not done. We failed. PSUs today, they have not all the PSUs. Most of the PSUs have failed, in my view, to absorb the technology. They have done it. They without absorbing, they have reproduced what they have done. Then buying the components from them, spares we are waiting. All these things are happening. So that is a mistake we have got. We have to take a decision. We have to make it. Otherwise, put them into the punishment system introduced. People are capable. They will do it only if you believe them. So what is required is government decision. Will should come. Everything 100% self-reliant country. Can you make it? I will say yes. Because I am confident. See, for example, I was showing you one aircraft flight from BrahMos, The Russians were after me that they will make it. I said, no Russian will make, we will do it. They said, you don't know the design of the Sukhoi. Sukhoi is being produced in our place, but design is not there. So they said, you cannot modify. I created the design. Flying, taking one aircraft, flying that aircraft in all maneuvers, instrumented completely, all this. Then model we made, we did the internal test in NAL, then we did the CFD analysis, all those things we did in 6 months' time. The design documents were made, we could make it. So capability is there. And HAL has done the modification. We have done the flight. All this, what you are seeing, is totally by ourselves, not, even though there's a joint venture. We told Russians who wanted $250 million from us, we said nothing doing, we will not give, we'll do ourselves. We did it. We did it. So if there's a will only, it will happen. Will has to come. So answer to the question is, if there is a decision that you have to make it, polysilicon is a way. We can't make polysilicon. Are we not capable? We can easily make, but we have no will. So everything we can buy the chips is very cheap from buying from outside. Where the market for everything? Market. Chips, if you produce millions, where is the market for it? We think like that. But Taiwan doesn't think like that. Taiwan, when they put the foundry, they think that 80 to 90% will be exported. Why we can't think like that? Israel is like that. They put a factory there. In a small place, they put the factory, they integrate and make a system. Their mandate is they should export. Our PSUs have no idea about export. Some we are doing, but not much. So my point is only one. If the government decides tomorrow you have to produce everything only in India, I'm sure that we are capable of doing that. Space program, you see, that's an example. Am I answering to your point?
Thank you very much for a very thorough answer, sir. In fact, during the process of answering this question, thanks to you, you also answered a follow-up question which was there again from Colonel D'Souza, which was regarding we are dependent on Russia for BrahMos, but isn't that against the goal of self-reliance? But I think in your answer, you have very aptly covered that bit as well as to how we do not budge.
But one point there, that's a joint venture. There is an agreement that when you not only you develop a system, joint venture continues for production also. You have to give some production to them. You can't do everything by yourself. Then it is not a joint venture. They believed and put money. The investment, if you see 300 million, $150 million provided by them. And when it is a production for us, requirement is us, you cannot say, no, we won't give you the work. So you have to honor that. That is a different issue. But when the air version is a new development, so we told them we will develop and we will produce.
Pradeep, I have one question for Mr. Pillai.
Yes, sir. Meanwhile, you ask, sir.
Yes.
Although, you very nicely explained about BrahMos and what a success it has been. Why is it that we have not replicated BrahMos in, say, 20 other fields with various countries? Why just one BrahMos when the model is successful? Can you just throw some light on that?
Sir, there was another attempt was made to make the 5th generation aircraft by HAL. So they said 50-50. They said, yes, that's also it will be a private venture. But you know, the man who initiates is very important. DRDO has got a lot of flexibility, and we wanted to have our own rules, regulations when we say it's a private company. But HAL wanted his own, whatever they follow should be maintained. The things have to be done by them, and they don't follow. They gave the design $300 million. They have spent on the design, and they have given the $300 million to them. If it is a 50-50%, you should not have given $300 million worth the design to them. They did the design and then terminated the contract. So the problem is the link between the two sides should be important where we do it. There is one Roos Brown export. You know, the complexity comes from them. In BrahMos, we eliminated them. It's a direct.
No, yeah, that is.
Yes, sir.
No, I just want to make one general point, Pradeep, if you allow me. Can I?
Yes,
Go
sir.
ahead.
Okay.
Absolutely, absolutely.
No, one is one question was asked whether what should be our national interest. I think national interest is very clear. We have to become Atmanirbhar. And Atmanirbhar in the way we understand, in a broader sense, which Prime Minister has said, that we must play to our strengths, and where we must build on our strengths, and where we don't have strengths, we have to cooperate with the others. And BrahMos was a very good way of doing it. I only wish that we had more BrahMos. I think it was a mistake on our part to somehow that fifth generation fighter aircraft thing did not work. But okay, that could be one. But there can be many other areas also, and not just with the Russians. It can be with many other countries also. So that's something which SAPI can look at. What model will really work for us? Because this is the age, particularly when you have supply chains issues, when you have globalization and so many other things. Obviously, you cannot work in silos. You'll have to work, and that will require political will and also changes in the way we function. For instance, I have never understood from the point of view of DRDO. I always feel that DRDO should have been, you should unshackle these institutions, which we have not done. I mean, if we unshackle them, they will have greater facilities. For instance, if the DRDO today had the flexibility of buying off R&D organizations across the world, as the private company does, I mean, then they by now they would have built on their strengths and they would have become major exporters also. But we have shackled the DRDO so much that it deals either with the armed forces or with the DPSUs, and that's about it. Nothing, they're not allowed to do anything else, which is not the way to do it, because today we have to. So that is, I think, one way to unshackling all the potential that we have. There are too many rules and regulations. So I think that's one another area that SAPI could look at. What is the best institutional mechanism? A third point, I think there was also this question was asked about the resources. Where will the resources come from? Clearly, government doesn't have an infinite amount of resources. It has many other priorities also. So it's very obvious that the private sector, etc., would have to come in. After all, in BrahMos, it's only $150 million that the government had to spend. $150 million is what, about 1,200 crores? That's it, which is nothing. In today's money, it is nothing. So resources will have to come from the private sector, and the private sector, and it has to produce for exports. This is absolutely the correct point. I mean, our own requirements will be much less. So I think we'll have to change a complete mindset, and still we do not have a proper defense export policy which allows that. So if, for instance, DRDO were allowed to export its products and so on, that would be much better. Anyway, that takes on to a different thing, but it is very important for the development of technology, how to have a proper defense exports policy. Then I think electronics was mentioned. I think electronics, and now we can add to things like artificial intelligence and augmented reality and so many other things to this. These are absolutely critical. And here we should learn something from China. You see, what China has done is they have done what they call the civil-military fusion. Their policy is civil-military fusion, which is something like a military-industrial complex, the way the Americans have, the private sector totally integrated with their Department of Defense and so on. Something similar will have to be done, and we try to do with our strategic partnerships, but that did not work out properly as yet. But this dual-use technology, which Mr. Shekhar Dutt was talking about, is absolutely the way to do it. There should be no difference between civil and, because you cannot create two different silos, one for defense and one for So I think a whole fusion, we'll have to see how to do it. And we should learn something from the Chinese, how they leveraged their market to reverse engineer, to do so many things. And today they are almost self-sufficient. They are self-sufficient almost in defense technologies completely. So much so that the Navy has become bigger than that of the US. Every month, every week, I think some ship is launched, etc. So we have to think big and provide for that. But obviously, but building the private sector and bringing that is very, and that brings me to the much larger question of skills, etc. You see, I think Mr. Pillai mentioned about 500 engineers in France and 200 here, and how they talk to each other, and we developed those capabilities. It must have been a big number by 500, 200, but we have not really repeated that experiment since then. Instead of 500, we should have 5,000 today.
Sir, it is 100 plus 100.
100 plus 100.
500.
Okay.
I didn't say 100.
Okay, I heard 500. So 100 plus 100. But why is it that we have not repeated that? Today it should be, it should go into thousands.
Yeah.
But because our systems are, so I think a lot of rigidity is in our systems. The moment you unshackle them, things will begin to happen. So that's a brief point I wanted.
Thank you for the very valuable points and for quite aptly answering the two questions. And I, as a young entrepreneur and innovator in this space, really appreciate the thoughts that you have just presented, because the fields of artificial intelligence, augmented reality, and such are taken up by young people. So young and smaller entities. So these words are very encouraging and they give us a direction. So I thank you for your answers. And I know there are a lot of questions, because some questions have come in chat, and I'm sure others also have a lot of questions, but we really have shot way beyond the time that we had suggested to all the attendees. So we would request everyone whose questions haven't been answered so far to kindly write to us at info@securityandpolicyinitiatives.com. I will repeat again, info@securityandpolicyinitiatives.com. Or even better, utilize the problems and solutions feature of the website, where these problems can be put up, and solutions from various stakeholders can be put up over there on an open forum. We are now moving towards the vote of thanks by Dr. Sangeeta Goyal. Ma'am, over to you, please.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Saran. Wow, what a splendid session of deliberation, loaded with practical experiences and very rich insights by a beautiful collection of brilliant minds. Thank you, sirs. Thank you so much. Minds, brilliant minds who have already excelled in their chosen domain of expertise, minds who have already made indelible marks in public life, minds who are here with us to help us lay a very solid foundation of SETI, the Think Factory, standing for a public cause. And as Pillai sir said, that SEPI is a sapling which we are planting today, and hope it will grow into a big, flourishing, blooming, and flowering tree. Ladies and gentlemen, we are very, very privileged indeed. SEPI, though an abbreviation of Security and Policy Initiatives, is a morpheme of sapiens, which in Latin means a wise being, the one who knows. Well, in the times to come, SEPI promises to be the storehouse of distilled wisdom of domain experts, academia, young researchers, active citizens that will form the knowledge base of SEPI, working in resolution mode. So much of food for thought given by our wonderful experts today. So many leads given for further work. Well, from my experience and from everybody's experience, I take this liberty to supplement Mr. Pradeep Gupta, the founder, on the gap between the policy and implementation, which unfortunately, in my personal views, exists in India. More often than not, we have seen that policies are made in air-conditioned, siloed environment, while they are implemented by the street-level bureaucracies at the ground level. whether the intent is translated and percolated down below in its true spirit, that's a question we have to deliberate upon. Often, this gap results in wide chasm between what was the intent of the policymakers, of the political bosses, and what was the quality and quantity of implementation. Broadly speaking, gentlemen and ladies, it is here that SAPI, the Think Factory, will try to fill in. Well, ladies and gentlemen, they say well begun is half done, and I must say this well begun would not have been possible but for the luminaries who are with us today and who have blessed SAPI. First and foremost, Shri Shekhar Dattji, the guest of honor. Sir, your constant guidance, support, and words of wisdom today will surely go a long way to ensure great delivery by SAPI. We are indebted indeed. Sir, you talked about the breaking down of silos. What it thought, sir? It's the need of the hour, sir. Has to be done now. You talked of, sir, intergenerational equity. I think all citizens of India, we have to understand that whatever we are doing today, whatever we have inherited today, sir, we owe it to our future generations. So we have to behave in a very responsible fashion, whether we are on the roads or whether we are in the corridors of power. Mr. Dr. Shivathanu Pillai, sir, your inspirational keynote address sets the so very right tone and tenor of the game ahead for SAPI. Sir, your august presence makes us feel very, very humble. The way you gave us insight into the TOT, which worked for missile, and sir, the kind of answers you gave to questions, sir, so much of food for thought for us, sir. Shri Arvind Gupta ji, sir, you have taken Vivekananda International Foundation to greater heights. We at SAPI feel so very privileged to have you with us. Sir, we are honored. And sir, you give us so many leads, sir, about the Border Management Commission, the need for it, and maybe if we could influence, work as influencer, models of TOT which may work in this realm, best institutional mechanism which needs to be set up, sir, and proper defense export policy, which is the need of the hour. What can be learned from Chinese experience of civil military fusion? Yes, sir. Very good cues, excellent cues giving, and enough work for us for SAPI. The august presence of very respected professors, researchers from IITs and other institutes, esteemed international experts from UK, USA, I saw sitting here in policy, who are experts in policy and security and defense related areas, very respected, senior, serving and veteran armed forces officials, my senior friends from bureaucracy, eminent representatives from media. Without you, a public cause has not much of voice. Our sincere gratitude. Last not least, our heartfelt thanks for one and all who graced the occasion, including friends from OFB, ex-OFB, now DPSUs. This event would have been so incomplete without your presence and assistance and blessings. A very, very big thank you and very good evening. Thank you very much. Namaskar.
Thank you.
Pradeep,
Yes, sir.
thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, Sanjay till the last.
Sanjay, I called him. He was stuck up. So he told that he'll get free and then call you.
No,
But
he is free now.
Call you.
He's free. He's
No,
free now.
now.
I really enjoyed the thing, and it was really very energetic, and a lot of issues were discussed which need to be implemented very immediately. And the interventions, Shekhar Dutt Sahab and Pillai Sahab and Gupta ji, very, very important things for our strategic importance and getting a self-reliant strategic policy. And actually, last 30 years, we keep hearing India an emergent power, but we never seem to emerge. So now with today's discussion, finally, we will see that why India has emerged as a power, and we have finally made it in the ranks of the near the 4, 5, 6 superpowers. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Sanjay.
So thank you, Mr. Pradeep.
Yes,
And
sir.
we all wish you a great time to come. And
Yes, sir.
SAPI
Thank
should
you.
really fly.
Yes, sir.
Good
We
day.
need continuous support and courage
Yeah,
from
yeah.
all of you. Thank you, sir.
No, you have got Mr. Shekhar Dutt with you. Who
Yes,
else?
no, you are there, Shekhar Dutt Saab is there.
No, if he's there, we are all
Arvind
there
Gupta
with
ji,
you.
Sanjay, everybody, all the dear participants have been there.
Actually, the hidden blessing of Dr. Kalam is there.
Wow.
And like I said, nobody would have given us how to make or design cryogenic engines. Huh? How did we do that? So it's the ability to do things when everything is denied to you. When it is denied, nahi milega kahin se bhi, then we can do. And we must have the trust. We meaning the nation must have a trust to our scientists that they will be able to find answers. And wo trust karke hum piche pade unke. And if we do that, we will then have no problem about IPR, no problem about this thing. And India is a big market. So if we can sell it within India competitively, then we will be able to sell it outside India.
Yes, sir.
Because
Yes.
what
Sir,
is
do you remember about LCA? We had a big contract with Marin Marietta for the control law, because LCA is not a stable aircraft. And after the 98-hour blast, the contract was closed by America. Then Dr. Kalam formed a national team, and we developed the whole technology when it was denied. What Mr. Shekhar Dutt is just now telling, when you are challenged, you are very powerful. When you are not challenged, you are sleepy.
no? Then also another thing, we don't have any option.
Yes,
We are not only challenged, but
yes, yes.
the government or we public, we don't have any option. So then we have to fall back.
Yes.
No. Green Revolution was done when we had no option, and it was done by Indian scientists. Green Revolution, and that made us confident that we can do it. Otherwise, we were begging for food grains to everybody.
Right.
PL 480 was giving us food grains. At the same time, when America was not very pleasant to us, but they didn't want us to starve and die. So they gave PL 480, and we took PL 480, and we were not starving. Now our scientists did. So we have to have faith, but the other thing is that we have to, we meaning even the private sector has to spend on R&D and design especially, and use that. I didn't say that Indian Institute of Technology Bombay, Indian Institute of Technology Madras, Indian Institute of Technology Kharagpur and Kanpur are resources.
Yes.
And similarly, there are some NITs which are very good resources. So try and develop India's specific parts. And this can be done. But we have to have faith. And we have to have trust. We have to have pride. If we do that, then ho jayega. And like I said, no other country in the world has got two enemies, or where it's a life in risk. No other country. So we have to be careful, and we have to design our own security and equipment. नहीं, बहुत अच्छा है. Very good. And you did a wonderful thing to get. But I wish General Bhatia could have said something.
Yes, sir. We'll very soon we are holding a next webinar, and we'll request him to, because I'll be focusing on demo then. General Bhatia?
Yes, come.
Yes, come.
Oh, fine.
Sorry, I had to just put it on silent mode and go off somewhere, sir. Just back. Sir.
Shekhar Dutt Saab wanted you to tell something. Some participants are there
Right,
still.
I think it's an excellent initiative, and we wish Mr. Pradeep Gupta and the very best. And it's got the support of the of the right decision makers and decision contributors who have been in this and who understand what actually we have to build up our own capabilities in defense manufacturing, and that is the main thing. And our borders, we have to not manage them, but now we have to defend them. The difference between border management and border defense. I think the line of actual control is now for more of a border defense issue than a border management issue for the time being till we resolve the issues and thereafter go back to border management. That's my view, because there is a subtle difference between the two. And whereas the line of control is concerned, good that the ceasefire holds out, but we need to be very sure that Pakistan does not restart what it has been missing out on. I'm sorry, going back on this session at the basically at the borders, because transfer technologies are a must in any case. So what I was trying to say, sir, was that with Pakistan, we need a 3P strategy that is a proactive strategy, a punitive strategy, and a preemptive strategy along the line of control. Whereas with the China, what China is doing, I think we need a 3D strategy. That is, defend the line of actual control, dominate the seas and the Indian Ocean region. And for both these, we need technologies and we need indigenous equipment, and we need to be self-reliant. We need to bring up our private industry, because 60% plus of our equipment is import, which is not a very good sign, which is, especially in times of need, we have to, emergent demands, we have to pay much more. And as it is after COVID, the armed forces of the nation are required to more and more and less. And the third thing about is data channel aggressiveness by binding to balance with nations having congruence and convergence of interest. So that is where I think the security and policy initiative, which has been started after due thought and due deliberations with all the stakeholders, with the many stakeholders that are there, I think it's an excellent initiative which is much required. Though there's a mushrooming of think tanks, but the Think Factory is the first of it. And I do wish everyone success, and I'll be there. Anything required, my support is always there, and I like to contribute positively in the future. And thank you very much, sir, and Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for nice words. Thank you very much, sir, for all the guidance you have given. Very good inputs you all have given, and my plate is full of ideas. I was thinking that I'll be holding webinar, but then too many suggestions are there, and I'll be carrying forward my next engagements with the stakeholders very shortly with those topics only. Thank you, sir.
Excellent. Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Very best. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All of you. Thank you very much. Thank you, General.